I've been meaning to talk about the MGM Plus series From, the science fiction, horror, fantasy series, also streaming on Stan here in Australia on the channel for some time. And there's no time like the present. And I'm just hoping that that's enough keywords and key phrases for YouTube, the gods of YouTube, the gods of the YouTube algorithm, to push this video out to the relevant people out there in the ether of YouTube. But From is needless to say, it's one of the most meta, one of the most unusual series in quite some time. We're up to season 4 of From now. I've been meaning to talk about this one for a while. Every video I see talking about From seems to be a lazily cobbled together from ChatGPT or Grok, soulless kind of an analysis. So hopefully this video is anything but that. Hopefully it's well, it definitely is completely off the cuff, so I hope you'll stick around for that. So seemed like there was no time like the present to talk about From, given that I'm currently recovering from some sort of plague. You may be able to hear in my voice. I've basically been stuck in bed for about the past 3 days or so, and I've finally ventured out into the world to some extent, or at least into a parking lot or car park in a local at a local sporting ground. But it is what it is. So From is quite unique, and it's also quite frustrating. It is very much a series of its time. I think it'll be remembered in future generations as a kind of time capsule of the time that it was made in. Much like we look at things like, not that I'm the biggest proponent or fan of these series, but things like Sex and the City is a bit of a time capsule for early 2000s narcissism and the worst aspects of me culture. And Beverly Hills 90210, I guess, bit of a time capsule for that whole fantasy early 90s yuppie college kind of culture. And both of those shows are proof that it does feel like we're living in the end times regardless of the era, because I don't think that either of those shows probably reflected particularly positively on the state of humanity during the times they were made. But I digress. The series From is, and if you haven't guessed by now, this is going to be a pretty rambly, feverish video, but it is what it is. So the series From is very much a product of its time, much like the Beverly Hills 90210s or the Sex and the City, and much like those, a product of the more negative aspects of a time. From is basically inspired, I guess you'd say, or at least originally inspired by the whole COVID epidemic / lockdown, more so lockdown, and the fear and paranoia, the unnecessary fear and paranoia of that time. For my money, From captures that whole vibe better than anything that I've seen in the preceding years since that bizarre and unusual and stressful and, let's say, needless time of 2020, especially the first half of 2020. So the basic premise of From is we have this weird interdimensional town. People are driving into it from all walks of life, and they are stuck in this town. They can't get out of it, or at least can't get out of the town and the surrounding woods. And this town's been going for eons, apparently. people have been arriving in this town, getting trapped in this town, dying in this town for literal generations. And all of that might sound enviable, especially if you're like me and 2026 doesn't make a lot of sense in most regards. But the town isn't all that it's cracked up to be, because unfortunately at night, these creepy kind of rockabilly shape-shifting monsters appear on the streets and knock on windows and doors, trying to get in to basically disembowel and devour the occupants. And the only thing that's stopping them are these amulets, which are basically put on the doors of all the residences. These amulets will even work on vehicles and ambulances and caves and so on and so forth. They're quite an interesting little plot device. These stone amulets from the series. And that's basically the setup. So I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with. I won't give away a great deal of plot points and things like that and spoilers for those of you that haven't seen it. Generally, I kind of tend to avoid streaming series because they do fall into the same trap as From. They become this meandering experience and without a great deal of resolution. From is no different. But I'm here to make the case today that From probably still is worth your time, despite those frustrations, to, I guess, recommend how to go into From in the right frame of mind, how you'll best enjoy it, how From the MGM Plus series can best be enjoyed. And that is not as a series at all. I would approach From as more of an experience than a series. I'd kind of look at From in the same way as you look at WCW Nitro or WWF Monday Night Raw back in the day, or a David Lynch movie. There's not necessarily any resolution or any purpose to it. It is just a series of visceral experiences, often hallucinatory experiences. And the parallels are quite close to something like WCW Nitro or WCW Monday Nitro in that regard. And hear me out before you laugh and find another video to watch. But things happen in From that don't make any sense, that don't basically move the plot along, but in the much the same way as WCW when they revealed characters like the Yeti and the Shock Trooper. I think it's easy to see those parallels between things like From and things like professional wrestling and things like a David Lynch movie or a David Lynch series. This is more of an immersive experience. That's the hat to put on, the attitude to bring with you to the table if you're going to experience From. Don't expect any resolutions or any coherence or any conventional plot narrative or anything like that, any real consistency. But it is generally a metaphorical, immersive experience of the not only the entire COVID situation, but this messed up Hadron Collider infused experience that we call post-2020 life as we head into 2026. And again, hear me out, I am going somewhere with all of this, unlike From. So From really does parallel, I guess, what you'd call our existence, our bizarre and our strange existence. From sort of creeps up on you. The first series seems nightmarish at the time. I mean, you've got these creepy smiling ghouls coming up and knocking on windows. One in particular has achieved a kind of cult status. I think they call him Smiley in the From fandom. And he is quite a sinister, quite a creepy individual. And it always amuses me casting like this because basically they're telling the They're telling the actor, "We love your look. It's going to scare small children." And I always think that Clint Howard must feel the same way as this as well. And he's become a bit of a cult classic in the series, so much so that they didn't allow him to die. Spoiler alert, they brought him back. But yeah, the scenario initially seems nightmarish, but one of the cool themes of From, I think, is that it does show that humanity gets used to pretty much any situation that's presented to them as reality. So at face value, hanging up talismans on doors to keep ghouls out seems horrifying, but of course it does become mundane in From. It becomes mundane quite quickly, and more quickly than you'd imagine, not only to we the viewer, but also to the characters in the series. So From does what reality's done to all of us since 2020, especially on a souped up, steroided up, amped up level, and it just gradually has that creep of, I guess you'd say, the deal getting worse all the time. I mean, we had the 2 weeks to slow the spread back in 2020, and life sort of kept creeping along with things becoming more and more bizarre. And before you know it, we have the current absurd situation where we're declaring victory in a bizarre war halfway around the world every day, it seems. And I think we're up to about 37 victories all up in the Strait of Hormuz, and 37 reopenings and 37 closures. And that is the reality that we live in now. And if you presented that reality to humanity with no primer, let's say 7 or 8 years ago, everyone would have laughed at the absurdity. Now everyone accepts it as normal and gets on with their day. And I think that the series From really does present that unusual aspect of humanity beautifully in this experience. The bizarre does become mundane. We see this constant rinse and repeat, this repetition, as we do in life, this repetition of weirdness, but weirdness that has become normality, that has become mundane. And that's where From does a frustrating yet brilliant job of conveying, I guess you'd say, the vibe of the 2020s, that is 2020 through to 2026 and counting. Who's to say what weirdness we'll regard as normal when we hit 2030? But nevertheless, From, even though it just meanders, it is an experience. I think that this series does have the power to keep going forever, basically, purely because of that meandering, deal getting worse all the time vibe. And it shows no signs of letting up in season 4. So if you're going to start watching From a pre-2020 mindset where you expect a cohesive narrative structure, things like razor sharp, tight plot direction and coherence and a resolution and things like that, you're probably barking up the wrong tree, because plot is very much taking a backseat in this series, and it's going around in circles, much like the people in the back seats of the cars that drive into this fictitious yet all too familiar town, and they're trapped in a never-ending loop, seemingly like many of us nowadays. So if you're expecting a conventional narrative, yes, you are barking up the wrong tree. If you're after a sympathetic experience, which kind of mirrors the weirdness of life post 2020, life in 2026, where we are presented with a new bizarre situation, new bizarre scenario, seemingly every week, and it goes from I wouldn't even say it goes from shocking to mundane. It feels like it does start at mundane now and continues to be mundane and just broadly accepted. which is quite fascinating. And the biggest example of this is we did have this whole alien disclosure, let's just call it a narrative, recently. And back in the day, that would have knocked everyone's socks off, amazed everyone. But we saw this alien disclosure. They told us there are allegedly 4 species of alien. And we even had a nonsensical Steven Spielberg vehicle to drive home that narrative of alien disclosure. And quite interestingly enough, the reaction from everyone, myself included, was just lack of interest and boredom. We don't particularly care about 4 species of aliens. We don't particularly care about disclosure. We'd just rather be able to pay our bills, thank you very much, and go on about our lives without high strangeness inhabiting every aspect of our lives. But as I said, that high strangeness has become kind of mundane in 2026. So From does do a fantastic job in capturing that general vibe of not only high strangeness, but the reaction to the high strangeness, which at best in this series, it's brief hysteria, and then it's usually followed by just I guess begrudging acceptance. A lot of the characters are behaving in this way in the series. You'll see someone literally losing their shit, and 5 minutes later they're just kind of defeated, which is a pretty good metaphor for 2026 for the way the world's gone. So From is a bit of a double-edged sword. It is frustrating in that Lost kind of way, which is you can just tell there's never going to be a resolution to it. It is from the creators of Lost, from the writers of Lost, and viewing it does become more of a habit, more of a shared trauma, I guess you'd say, than anything. But it is quite intriguing. It's hard to look away in that regard, because it is a fairly chillingly accurate, I guess you'd say, piece of social commentary about the state of humanity nowadays, about the state of our acceptance of increasing levels of nonsense. I mean, we've all seen in terms of the people who legislate over us, who lord over us. Back in the good old days, they'd tell us these awesome fairy stories to try and justify stealing half our money in taxes and things like that. And coming up with these ridiculous policies. But now they just, they basically just say, this is what we're doing. They don't try and sugarcoat it. And really, they don't care whether we respect them or admire them or look up to them or anything like that. Those are the quaint days of bureaucracy back in the day. And sadly, those are obsolete in the current era. So I think From does a very good job of basically mirroring the absurdity of, I guess you'd say, the acceptance of bizarre situations, of stuff we wouldn't have put up with even a decade ago. I mean, at this point, it's you kind of wonder what any of these institutions would have to do to get a reaction out of people. People just kind of seem defeated these days, and it is quite interesting. And From the MGM Plus series, also on Stan here in Australia, does do a pretty good job, despite being quite frustrating in exploring these kind of themes. So I recommend this one with a caveat. If you are after an immersive experience that will chew up a lot of time, then by all means dive balls deep into From. If you are very time poor if you still kind of value a coherent narrative structure and resolutions and things like that, which I do to a great extent, but From seems to be an exception for me, then by all means check it out. Or there is the third rail, the third option with From, and that is to pick up the very first season on DVD or Blu-ray and work your way through that one, and then pretend that they didn't follow it up with any other seasons. So that could be a good way to attack it. The first season was kind of wrapped up in a little bit of a bow, even though it was ambiguous, and as is always the case, the second, third and fourth series were commissioned because Hollywood and the streaming services that now replicate Hollywood aren't going to look a gift horse in the mouth when they have a hit on their hands. So even if they make a streaming series about Pompeii and everyone gets buried in ash at the end and dies, they'll still figure out a way to make season 2 of Pompeii, season 3 of Pompeii, season 4 of Pompeii, and season 5 of Pompeii, even if it's a prequel. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Still a bit delirious, I guess, with this whole whatever the hell it is, but it did seem to be the universe telling me in a timely way to talk about a series that was born of the pandemic and continues to reflect the high strangeness of the current times. I can almost see season 5 of From introducing a Strait of Hormuz storyline where the cast resolve a problem every episode, and then the next day it resets and they have to do the exact same thing all over again, and fools like me keep watching and perhaps fools like you, if you've become intrigued and you start watching From after seeing this video. So we'll see what happens in season 5. I don't think it's a spoiler alert to let you know that nothing was really resolved at the end of season 4, so we can only anticipate season 5 on the way. But nevertheless, there's not a lot of great stuff out there at the moment. I know that I haven't seen them yet, but I know that Obsession and Backrooms are blitzing the box office, whereas movies that you would expect to blitz the box office, like Supergirl and Masters of the Universe and Baby Yoda, are bombing. So we are living in interesting times indeed. So maybe, you never know, stranger things have happened. Maybe I will be starting to watch more new films and less 30, 40, 50-year-old films. But I won't hold my breath too quickly. But you never know. Likely I'll still be watching and reviewing stuff from decades past, because Hollywood tends to never learn the correct lessons when they see these examples of lightning in a bottle, like Obsession or Backrooms. So they'll no doubt take the wrong lessons from these. But anyway, you never know. Stranger things have happened. So we'll continue to live in the high strangeness of the mid to late 2020s, I guess. And we'll see how From responds to that. Presumably From's going to keep going for the next, for the length of humanity, maybe. It really can, given the current format of it. And it can just keep meandering on forever. And who's to say, I may keep watching From forever and being a glutton for punishment. Nevertheless, if you're still here at this point, there really is but one thing to do, that is hit like. Well, a few things to do: like, share and subscribe, help a brother out, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Who knows what I'll be talking about next time. Hopefully I'll be this fever will be fully broken, but I thought it'd make an interesting an interesting added element to do a video while all of these germs are fighting each other within my body, much like Boyd and his mates in From, and the smiling demons in From. So till next time, take it very easy.